Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and I believe I have fixed my earphones, and so I think we're back in business. Sorry for the terrible audio this morning. I just realized I have not followed this girl yet. I was going to start the show off by saying that her name, and I know I'm butchering this name, Vidya Mani, Ripple welcomed her as VP of Engineering RippleNet. And they posted an article today, and it was from her, Why I Joined Ripple. And it's basically an article about why she's excited about joining Ripple. Not going into the article or anything, but I did want to say congratulations to Vidya Mani. And I'm sorry I probably butchered your name, but I hope you have a fun time working for Ripple. And I hope you pay yourself mostly in XRP. That's what I would do if I worked there. Now, I think Leonidas did one of the better, he added something really cool to his website. And for those of you that don't know, Leonidas runs XRParcade.com. He says, introducing the Ripple timeline, a brief yet informative representation of Ripple's history. Well, I saw this and I immediately saw something I wanted to illustrate for you and show you when I looked at his timeline. So what I was going to do is I'm going to start you at 2004, and we're going to go through his timeline. And then when I get to the place I want to make a point, I want to show you something. Okay, so 2004, and I've always been a bit confused by this, what this Ryan Fugger guy was doing. But it says Ripple was first idealized in 2004, Ripple Pay, by Ryan Fugger, who developed the first prototype of Ripple as a decentralized digital monetary system. And then in 2011, XRPL first commit Jed McCaleb pushed the first commit of XRPL validator. David Schwartz and Arthur Brito created the XRP ledger. Here's something else we know. Roger Ver told me that he was the second person at Ripple. Okay, so it's Jed McCaleb, then Roger Ver, and that Roger Ver ended up paying David Schwartz's salary during this time. And these guys, Arthur Brito and Chris Larson, came after that, is the way I understood it. Now, they may have come before David Schwartz, but they came after Jed McCaleb and Roger Ver. 2012, Arthur Brito created the 100 billion XRP, then called XNS. 2012 is when OpenCoin, Chris Larson and Jed McCaleb co-founded OpenCoin. All right, December 2012, the XRPL goes live. April 3rd, 2013, Simple Honey. OpenCoin acquired Simple Honey to help it popularize virtual currencies and make them easier for average users. Angel funding round. OpenCoin announced it had closed an angel round of funding with several venture capital firms. And then OpenCoin in 2013, second round. Jed McCaleb leaves Ripple in 2013 after falling out. He left, okay? 2013, Ripple Labs OpenCoin officially changed its name to Ripple Labs. Seed round, Ripple Labs complete seed round funding, 2013. This is what I want to show you, because I believe that this was a critical date in Ripple history. Now, so on May 5th of 2015, FinCEN penalty. Ripple received a $700,000 civil money penalty from the U.S. Treasury's FinCEN, Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, for willful violation of the Bank Secrecy Act by acting as a money services business without registering with FinCEN. And I believe FinCEN at that time, they fined them and they designated XRP as a currency, as a virtual currency, is the way I remember it. Now look what happens right after this. May 5th, 2015. Then May 18th, 2015, Series A funding, Ripple Labs raises $28 million from IDG Capital Partners CME Group. This CME Group closes their funding of Ripple after Ripple receives this penalty and is designated a virtual currency. The CME Group then invests in Ripple, almost like this ruling was necessary before they were going to invest their money. But here's what else to remember. Remember, this is May 5th of 2015. This is Greg Kidd describing what happened, and he got there. Look when Greg Kidd got there. He got there in 2013 to 2015. And in this video, he says when he first got there, they went straight to the Treasury.
You kind of take that for granted. That's the way Airbnb got started and Uber. They weren't in, at that time, regulated industries. But generally, things in financial services, you got to be regulated. So when I came to Ripple, that was a new blockchain. That was the second thing after Bitcoin. The first month, we went to Treasury to explain what we were doing.
First month.
So we didn't operate under the illusion that we would never be regulated and we would never have to ask.
All right. So the first month, he starts in 2013. So the first month that he got there in 2013, they went to Treasury. Well, the FinCEN is U.S. Treasury's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. So after they go to Treasury, they are then fined in 2015. They are fined by the U.S. Treasury. So they meet with them, then they're fined by them. That poses all sorts of questions. Well, but let's go back to this CME Group. So CME Group is willing to invest in them after they get this fine. They're willing to invest in them, right? Now, who joins Ripple from the CME Group? Miguel Valles joins in 2016. So two things happen after they get this fund. The CME Group is willing to invest in them, and they obviously had to tell Miguel Valles, yeah, you need to go to this company. So then Miguel Valles is comfortable going there, almost like this is the piece of paper that was needed in order to not get in any trouble being the head of XRP markets. Makes sense? Makes sense to me. I wasn't born yesterday. All right. Corey Johnson tweeted this out today. Now, there's a lot more on that timeline, by the way. Go to xrparcade.com and you can really see the history of Ripple. He did a really good job on it. Corey Johnson, this great piece from Bloomberg Law sounds exactly the point I made in my last Forbes crypto article, China's ambition to dominate Bitcoin. He's retweeting Brad Garlinghouse's tweet. So this is a whole theme going on right now, is Bitcoin and Ethereum are China and they control it, and that the U.S. needs to get off the pot, right? That's the whole theme of what's going on. Okay, now Ripple keeps retweeting things that they've already tweeted out and already brought to people's attention. And every time I see that, I'm like, okay, they want this featured a little bit more, and I'm glad to give it to them. Okay, hear more from Joel Katz and Brianna Madigan about why deep liquidity is the key to institutional investment. Now, I have shown you this before, but I wanted to let you listen to a different part. Remember, it's significant that Brianna Madigan did work at Goldman Sachs, is very familiar with how New York works, how these traditional financial players work. Listen to what she says about JP Morgan and Goldman Sachs.
Is huge. So I'm excited, but I think it's super early days.
Well, just a couple of years ago, no bank or financial institution would have touched a digital currency. And then we got to the point where every financial institution or bank felt they sort of had to have some sort of a digital currency strategy at least. Where do you think they are now? Yeah,
I mean, I go back to that like JP. I mean, think about what was Jamie Dimon saying. I don't remember exactly when, but he was very publicly like, this is a load of you know what. And and then fast forward, and the first bank to actually bank two of the largest crypto companies, that is a huge step in the right direction. And then, I spent a bit of time at Goldman, a long time at Goldman before I came here. And, so I stayed in touch with some of my former colleagues there. And they have been taking, over the last couple of years, an approach of let's a little bit wait and see, but we don't want to miss the boat either. Let's put capital to work by investing in promising companies so we can at a minimum participate in the equity appreciation of these companies. And then let's watch as some of the regulatory hurdles come down and think about moving towards potentially, trading and storing these assets as well. Nobody wants to miss the boat completely, but I think depending upon the bank you're talking about and the traditional financial services provider, they're taking differing approaches to getting some sort of exposure to this phenomenon of crypto adoption. I think JP Morgan seems to be leading the pack so far from the traditional players.
So I think the thing that used to be slowing them down is the fear that this whole thing was just like a giant scam. I think that's pretty much gone.
Yes, no, I agree. That's gone. There are, I will say, both on the positive and negative side of crypto, it is easy to set up an exchange in some ways. If you could do something very similar and call it an exchange and, create some sort of compelling website. But I think now that we've been in this for a while, there are clear winners. There are clear players who are doing things right, following the rules, and have, gathered significant assets under management that have, legitimate exchanges, that have robust KYC processes, et cetera. And so I think people are now able to kind of separate sort of the noise and realize that there are a number of really impressive institutional quality players in the space, and traditional financial investors are now getting increasingly comfortable crossing over into this asset class as a result.
So why?
Here they come. Anyway, that's a great podcast. That's David Schwartz's podcast that he calls, what does he call it? Block Stars. Okay, I wanted to finish this up by showing you some utter ridiculousness. Brad Houston, it gets better. Going through the data now and just found this little gem. Why is the Fed buying Berkshire Hathaway bonds? And they're talking about all this bailout business going on with the Fed and all the buying. Good. This is from Zero Hedge. Glad to see that the impartial financial media is furiously covering the Fed's buying of foreign bonds as a part of its bailout of the U.S. middle class. And they're just showing you a screenshot of some of the different crazy bailouts. Folks, if this is not some kind of a planned bankruptcy of the United States of America, I don't know what it is. It reminds me of a conversation that I had when I was back after the financial crisis of 2008 and all that. I remember being at a dinner party, and I remember talking to a banker, and he was trying to tell me how great all these bailouts were and how it worked and all that. And I told him, I said, no, you're wrong. I said, there's a room full of guys here, and this time it was you, the banker, that was bailed out. But what about the people that weren't bailed out? You just opened you guys just endorsed and opened a can of worms that will never, this genie will never be put back in the bottle until this country is bankrupted. Because once you bail out one guy, he's got a competitor that didn't get bailed out. So you no longer have capitalism. And as long as they can do it under the guise of an emergency, the next time they're going to tell you that someone else, it's an emergency. Next time it's going to be another industry. And they're going to say, once you introduce socialism or whatever you call this that's going on into what's supposed to be a capitalist society, once you introduce it, there's no putting it back in, because politicians have seen they can get away with it. And so they keep trying to get away with it. And that's why you're now seeing, remember, Warren Buffett was one of the guys that was brought in during the financial crisis. I'll never forget it. He was brought in, and they had a backroom conversation that said, yeah, Warren, we need you to bail out Goldman Sachs. And so Warren works out a sweetheart deal where I believe he got preferred shares in Goldman Sachs, and he got assurances from the federal government that they were going to back up Goldman Sachs so that his investment was protected. And and Martha Stewart goes to jail for talking to her broker about a stock, folks. What has gone on and what is going on should be criminal. It is criminal. They're just not calling it that because these are the people in the club. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that the Fed is buying Berkshire Hathaway bonds. Thanks for listening.